All right, page 220 where we left off. I'm going to give you the answers, but this is just a math problem now if you understand the formula. Shh. And incidentally, I round them off. So don't expect me to give you a Mayo of $45,280, any of that junk. Remember, reptile brain, round it off. Mayo on the first one is what? There can only be one answer. And there is no such thing as a 45.9 Mayo. It's 46. It's 46. And that's what the answer is. 70% of 77 minus 8 is 46, if my math is correct. Okay, what's the Mayo on what's the most you could offer on that house? 41. Next answer is 65,000. 65. 70% of 109 minus 11 is 65. Or 66. Somewhere between 65 and 66. Okay? The next answer is 50,000. 70% of 85 minus 9,500 is 50,000. Am I right?
Right.
Okay. The next answer is what? How much? 38. Correct. The next one is 54. 54, 55, either one's correct. Next answer? 37. 36? I'll accept that. Next answer?
No offer on that one.
33. Now obviously, what is going to go in your offer columns? At least $5,000 less. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. At least $5,000 less. Okay, 127? How much? 71. You said 89. What did you forget? You forgot to took out the repairs. Don't let that math get you now. Okay, 74 is 45. And 89 is 49. Okay, those are your Mayos. If you missed them, figure out what you missed. Put some batteries in your calculator. Your offer. Now, here's some things I didn't finish up. I told you when we were talking about how to determine your offer, we said the uglier they are, the lower you can go below that, but I didn't finish the other things. Okay, now get this. If the asking price is at or about Mayo, it gives you a license to go way below Mayo. If the asking price is at or about Mayo, you can go way below that and have a reason to do that. We are talking about pre-screening prospects here, so watch. Let's say we got a $100,000 ARV. It needs $20,000 worth of repairs. If you can just imagine with what Robert and I and some of you know, how many dollars worth of, what that $20,000 will do to a house, you can imagine what it looks like now. It is ugly. That is a big time ugly house. Okay? Because most of the rest of the world thinks that's how much to fix. $40,000 to $50,000 worth of repairs. That's what they think. Okay? Now, let's say the asking price on this property is $75,000. Well, first, what's the Mayo? 50. Don't say 70. You forgot the repairs. The Mayo is 50. All right. Now let's see the asking price, $75,000. What do you think your chances of buying that property are? The answer is slim to none. Why? Because the asking price is so far above reality, there's very little chance you are ever going to come to terms with the seller. The problem is, the spread there is too big. The farther below ARV the asking price is, and the closer to Mayo, the easier the house is to buy. Now, if that's a bank repo and they're asking 75, you got a better chance of buying it than if it's a FSBO at below 50, because the bank repos ask way up here, don't expect to get it. The realtors set the prices high knowing that the offers are going to come in considerably low. Well, some of them might expect to get it because the realtors pump them up full of pipe dreams. But I've had some huge discounts on bank REOs. If it's a bank REO, however, and they're asking 75 and it's worth 100 and it needs 20 in work, is it still what you would call a prime prospect? Now let's turn it around just a minute. Regardless whether it's a bank REO or whether it's an individual. Now let's say the asking price is 55. 55. What does that do to the total complexion of the deal? Now all of a sudden, it is a super hot prospect. Because the asking price and the ARV are very close, and I know that if the asking price is 55, there's a real good chance I'm going to get it way below that. So now all of a sudden, it was worth my extreme focus to hone in on this thing until it's sold or until I bought it. If I can't get it bought today, I'll simply buy it later. If somebody else doesn't beat me to it. That's why, guys, no, listen to me. That's why it's so important that you crank up your ant farm and hone in on these deals without signs in the front yard. What's the important ingredient there? There's nobody else in the hunt. Not true with listings in the MLS system. There's always people in the hunt. And here's something you ought to write down. The easier it is to find, the more it costs. So in the MLS system, it's easier to find. It costs more. If it's a VA or HUD repo, it's easier to find. It costs more. And you guys aren't going to be buying HUD and VA repos. Sorry to deflate your bubble. I know you'd like to because they're right there and they're published and they're easy to buy and you don't have to do hardly any work, do you? What's the problem with HUDs and VAs? They're easy to find. Therefore, every owner-occupant and every investor in the city that just came out of a Carlton Sheets course or out of a book that they ordered off of TV or whatever are going to go out and look for HUD and VA repos, and they're going to go out there and they don't understand that when the asking price is darn near the ARV, there's no chance they're going to buy them. Now, is there occasional pearl in the HUD list? Yes. And what do you think that pearl looks like? Extremely ugly. Extremely ugly. All the rest of them, for the most part, where most of you live, are a gross waste of your time and effort. How about where you live, Robin?
The only pearl is the ugliest of the ugly on the HUD list.
Correct. So don't leave here looking for FHA and VA repos. Sorry. That's not where gold is. That's where all the work is that leads you to no income. The gold is in the ugliest of the ugly. You'll get some listed ones. But the best deals are the ones that don't have any sign in the front yard and the rest of the world isn't chasing. So now, actually, just like that one John got from the pharmacist. Oh, I'm going to tell a story, John. The pharmacist, I'll tell it, John. The pharmacist asked John, said, "Hey, where'd you learn this? Are you one of them Carlton Sheets students?" John said, "No, I'm a Ron LeGrand student." And the guy says, Is it true that you can really buy properties for nothing down?" I swear to you. I swear to you. John said, "I just did." He says, "I guess you're right, you did." It amazes me how some people are able to get out of bed in the morning, I swear. The best deals are the ones with the biggest spread between the ARV and the asking price. The worst deals are the ones where the asking price is closer to the ARV. If you just remember that, pre-screen them at lightning speed. Pre-screen them at lightning speed. When the ARV is too close to the asking, it's over. When the ARV and the asking are a good ways apart, you're in the hunt. When the asking and when the Mayo and the asking are close, consider it bought. And you're going to be amazed at how often the asking is right at the Mayo, and quite often even below the Mayo. Those are the ones you spend your time on, because you won't need much time. You'll buy most of them. Any comments on that, Robin? Does he find it any different?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So the uglier the house, the easier it is to get the asking at the Mayo. If you think through it, it makes sense, doesn't it? All right, on the next page, we're going to talk about another way to make an all-cash offer. How about making all-cash offers without worrying about paying all cash? It's a delayed offer or split-funded offer. It's really very simple. In my example, if I have a $100,000 order with 20 repairs, the Mayo is 50, and I decided that I'd pay 35 for it, all cash. Mayo is 50, so I just structured two offers to give the seller. I'll pay you 40 now, all cash at closing, or, I'll pay you 35 now, all cash at closing, or I'll pay you 40 with 2 down and 38 within 6 months. Go ahead and take a first mortgage on the property, so your 38 will be secured by the property. If I don't pay, you can take it back, sell it again. I'll give you a $38,000 first mortgage or trust deed with no payments and no interest, all due within 6 months. That's called a 6-month balloon. The seller has a reason to accept that offer. Actually, they have 5,000 of them, don't they? In exchange for waiting a few months to get their money, they get more money. Now, which one of those offers do you want the seller to accept? The answer is either one. Truthfully, I'd rather have them accept the 40. Even though I'm paying $5,000 more, I've only got to raise $2,000. They can do that with a MasterCard. And this is assuming that I'm going to buy it. What if I wanted to wholesale it? I get it under contract with 2 down, balance within 6 months, no payments, no interest, just all due within 6 months. But I put 2 down, I close on it, I sign a first mortgage, I own the house, I owe 38 on it. Now how much, can I go wholesale that one? How much, can I? Is if I'm also making it easier for my buyer to buy it, if I don't make them raise all the money to pay off the 38 as well. So if I'm buying it for 40 with 2 down, could I sell it for 50 with 12 down? And let them take over the 38? Yes, I could, as long as I didn't personally guarantee the 38. And you will not personally guarantee the 38. You will take ownership in a land trust, and the trustee will sign as trustee, and you don't have any personal guarantee on the 38. The trustee is not liable as trustee, and you're not liable because your name is nowhere on the note. Now, how do I do that? Well, I just tell the closing agent to take title in ABC Corp as trustee or John Doe as trustee. As long as the words as trustee are after their name, you just put the property into a land trust and there's no personal liability. As long as they sign the note as trustee, they're not personally liable for that debt. And if you guys are really lost on the land trust stuff, as most of you are, but as usual, you worry about all the wrong stuff, and you make it a lot more complicated than it really is, go back and get the green course and pull the land trust CD out of there and listen to where I interviewed Sean Casey, an attorney, and we went through every bloody paragraph. Try to stay awake this time. And I promise you, you're going to learn more about land trust than you need to learn. Now, people are coming to me all the time. Well, I can't get an attorney that understands land trust, so I can't get to any legal advice on land trust. Well, let's put it this way. If you put a property in a land trust, you can always take it back out. There isn't a single state where it's not legal. There isn't a single state where everybody will try to talk you, won't try to talk you out of it. They don't know They're giving you advice on stuff they don't know about, including your attorneys. They don't have a clue. But just understand this. All you got to do is put the words "as trustee" after the name of the owner, and you just formed a land trust. Ooh. It can't be that easy. Yes, it is. If the words "as trustee" come after the name, you just formed a land trust. Now, you should use the warranty deed to trustee that's in your forms package, because that has trust language in it. That's the deed you should use to take title to property. And if your closing agent don't have it, give them that one. If they want to add something, great. Tell them to use that deed. Even if you don't use that deed, and you use a regular warranty deed, and you put the words "as trustee" after your name, you have just formed a land trust. So this is a test. How do you form a land trust? The answer, you record the deed. As soon as it's recorded, the land trust is formed because you just funded it with a property. Now, what attorney do you need to get advice on that? What questions do you want to ask this attorney that I just didn't answer for you? Oh my God, what happens if I did it wrong? You die. Or you file a corrective deed and do it right. Or you just take it out of the land trust and put it in your own name, like you're supposed to, according to the rest of the world. You cannot make a mistake that you can't quickly fix with a corrective deed. You cannot suffer any harm. Nothing bad will happen. It has no tax consequences whatsoever, guys. A land trust has nothing to do with your taxes, good or bad. It's a invisible entity as far as taxes goes from the IRS. It's in the code. I read it myself. A land trust does not affect your taxes. You're putting it in the land trust for privacy. But in the case I just said, you're putting in the land trust also to keep you from guaranteeing the note personally. Now, are you going to leave this class as an expert on land trust? Nope, because I ain't teaching it here. It's in your green course. I can't tell you a thing about land trust that isn't in the CD in your green course. And so I don't see any reason to spend time on it here. If I could just get you over the hurdle that all that crap doesn't matter anyway, all you need to do is get the deed recorded, and the rest will come. Take the first step, and the next will appear. All right, back to split funding. This will not work with, well, it will work with realtors, but it won't work near as well with realtors. It works very well with individuals. The individual gets to choose whether they want more money later or all of it now. Either way, you win. And incidentally, if I make these two offers to an individual, do you understand that they are so busy trying to figure out which one they want, it never occurred to them they don't have to take either? It's multiple offer strategies, which we're going to get into in September. Give the seller a choice. Let them decide what's best for them. Do not try to make that decision for them, and this will be a much easier business for you. Well, I don't think they'll take that 40 because they want all cash now. If there's one thing you're going to learn, is that you can't believe anything that comes out of a seller's mouth, because half the time they don't even know what they want. They sure don't know how to tell you what they want. The only time you're going to really know what they want is when you make them an offer and then they have to make a choice. Then you'll know quickly where their head is. Until you make the offers, you don't know squat except what they're saying, and I'm telling you what they're saying is not necessarily what they're meaning. I want all cash. Well, so what? Did they say, I won't accept anything but all cash? Nope. What if they say, I won't accept anything but all cash? I've learned to not hear that. I've learned that many, many times I've seen people do exact opposite of, they just told me what they would never do if I give them a reason to do it. We were just at lunch with the Ionatis and John and Donna. We were talking about a deal that we got a deed on last September. We just sold that house 2 weeks ago and got a check for $34,000 net profit. How do I know it's net profit? Because we don't have a dime in the house and haven't spent a dime on it, even for repairs, since last September. Now, the house had a second mortgage on it and a first. The first politely told us to shove it. They weren't discounting. And there was no reason. They were only in it for 50%. However, the second told Donna a dozen times, we will not discount this second. What was it, a $30,000 second? $27,000 second. They told her a dozen times, we'll go bail it out. We'll buy out the first. We're not discounting the second. Of course, the same dozen times I said, Donna, don't believe a word they're telling you. It's not true. This is last September. It's now May. 2 weeks ago, we closed the sale of that property after they finally consented to take $5,000 for that $27,000 mortgage. That whole time, the house just sat there. Patience. Patience is what created that deal. But you know what created it more importantly? Patience and putting ourselves where we can't possibly lose no matter what happens. I can't impress upon you guys the importance of making sure that you can't lose no matter what happens. And that's what I like about short sales. If you don't write a check and you don't guarantee debt, you're in total control 100% of the time, because you don't have to make payments because they're in default already. So we sit around there for 6 months waiting for the bank to decide what they wanted to do when they grew up. And time and circumstances changed their mind. Now, they knew we had the deed the whole time. They knew we owned the house. And I think, didn't they? Yes. So finally they sent over a letter. They said we'd take $5,000. So we sent them the $5,000 and we got a satisfaction of the mortgage. And as usual, we won. Now, why on earth did I bring that up? Oh, because it's just another case of where you can't believe a thing people tell you. You can't believe a thing the seller says until you have evidence that it's real. Short sale, split funding is extremely easy, guys. There's really nothing. You don't need to worry about the paperwork. You know, the only paperwork involved in a split funding deal is a purchase and sale agreement. The rest of it is prepared by a closing agent, not by you. Your only job is to make sure that what you said to the seller is represented on the purchase and sale agreement, which is pathetically easy to do, and that's the end of your responsibility, except to bring $2,000 to closing and whatever closing cost you agreed to pay. And then if you sign it as trustee, you tell the closing agent, I'm taking title to it in a trust, and the buyer will be ABC Corp as trustee or John Doe as trustee. They'll write it up that way. And then when you sign the note, you'll sign, if it's ABC Corp, you'll sign Ron LeGrand as president of trust. You'll sign it ABC Corp, Ron LeGrand president. ABC Corp as trustee. Ron LeGrand president. No personal liability. Now, incidentally, do you think the seller knows there's no personal liability? Probably not. Is it your responsibility to tell them? Probably not. Are you their attorney? Are they writing you a check for legal advice? It's not your responsibility to tell them. On the other hand, if you sign that note and you can't pay, what will you lose? Your $2,000 plus any money you put in the house. So you wouldn't do this deal anyway unless you intended to get it sold. And what about that 6-month balloon? That scare you? Does that scare you? Does, doesn't it? So if you pay the $2,000 and you renovate the house and 6 months goes by and you haven't got it sold and you're not ready to cash out, what do? Well, you got several choices. A, you can get in front of a truck and end it all. B, you can pick up the phone and call the seller and say, listen, I got this house finished, but I just can't get it sold. I'm out of time. I need you to extend it if you don't mind. Now, what do you think they'll do? What are their only two choices? Extend it or not extend it. If they don't extend it, now what do they got to do to get the property back? Foreclose. Foreclose against whom? Foreclose against the trust that owns the property. Not you. You're out of it. Because you listened to Ron and you didn't sign a note personally and take title in your own name. You're out of it. You're in total control all the time. Take title in your own name and you're out of control the minute you do. You see, they either got to foreclose, which takes months. You got your extension anyway. Or they give you the extension and you get it anyway. It's not how I win or lose. It's which way I win first. Or I don't play the game. You learn that after a while. Any questions on split funding? Can all you guys offer a split funding offer? Split funding should always be higher than the cash offer. Just remember that. But don't raise the cash offer and then put the split funding above that. Figure out what you'd pay for cash and make that your split funding offer. And then offer less for cash. Got it? Got it? Sure. Uh-huh. Okay, next page. Does everybody understand the Mayo formula? So if I passed around a test right now and I gave you a problem, everybody would get the Mayo formula right.
I would.
Okay. I wished I could believe that all of you would, but I know better. You better get it. And if you don't understand it, come tell one of us you don't understand it so that you can leave here. You must understand that formula before you leave this building. Because if you don't, you're out there wailing in the wind trying to figure out what you want to do using the swag theory that most people use to buy houses. And swag is dangerous. All right, presenting offers. There's only two kinds of offers you're going to present in the junker business.
Ron,
Realtor offers or FSBO offers.
Can I
yes.
just ask one question regarding
You may.
All the theories that you had, and you're talking about with the loan being...
Pardon me? Say it again.
The loan was being held by a bank or mortgage company.
A loan.
When you were talking to split funding and, if they want to foreclose...
You won't split fund to a bank.
Okay.
Split funding only applies to individuals.
Right. But when you're talking about them foreclosing...
Yes.
Does it make any difference if the loan is being held by a private individual on a land contract?
I don't care who it's held by as long as you're not personally liable.
Okay. So I can buy a piece of property or I can lease option from the seller.
No. You're going to get the deed. You're either going to get the deed by paying cash or you're going to get the deed by taking over underlying debt.
I have her signed that I can get the deed, but when I did title search, the deed shows up in escrow, never having been recorded in her name. It's still in the name.
Then you don't do a darn thing until you go get the deed to the property. If you can't get the deed to the property, get the door.
Okay. Thank you.
Get the deed or get the door. Get the deed or get the door. Repeat after me. Get the deed or get the door. Get the deed or get the door. Get the deed or get the door. You won't hear me teaching lease options in this class. Do I teach them? Yes, I do. Are they dangerous for you? Yes, they are. The biggest problem is the seller doesn't have to keep their word after you've kept yours. You may have to force the seller to keep their promise after your services have been delivered. Get the deed, and it's over. Seller's no longer a part of it. You don't need their permission to do anything. And that's tomorrow's class anyway. Yes?
Ron, a quick question.
Yeah.
I have a closing coming up next week, and I don't have a corporation set up yet.
Buying or selling?
I'm buying.
Okay.
Should I have it put as Maureen Hayes trustee on
okay.
the... I just need clarification on that.
All right, what's your contract say? Who's the buyer?
Currently, it's me and my husband.
All right. Well, at closing, it's going to be a land trust.
Okay, so it's just going to say land trust?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not.
All right. How do I...
God, you're going to make me do this land trust class whether I want to or not.
I'm sorry. Just very quickly, just so I know how to work
All right.
next week.
What's the seller's name?
Alan Fisherman.
Fisherman. How would you like to go through life with a name like that? Mr. Fisherman? Are you big fisherman or little fisherman? Here's what it's going to be called. It's going to be called the Fisherman Family Trust. What state you in?
Texas.
Okay? Individual's got to be a trustee anyway. Who you want it to be? Your husband? You?
Now, this is the seller. That's not my name.
I hear you.
Okay.
Just relax,
yes, the
chill out, take a pill, and listen. You have a maiden name, right?
Yes, it's Hayes.
What's your maiden name?
Hayes.
What's your first name?
Yes, Maureen.
Laureen, L-O-R-E-E?
No, M-A-U-R.
Oh, Maureen, okay.
Uh-huh.
M-A-U-R-E-E-N. Close enough. Hayes. All righty?
Yep.
That's your maiden name now?
Yes.
Okay, as trustee. That's how I want you to take title.
Okay.
Where it says, where it would normally have your name, you make sure the closing agent puts those words there.
Okay. Now, is the seller going to be comfortable with my taking title that way?
The seller won't even know, nor will they care.
Okay.
How are you buying the property?
Actually, we have a mortgage. It's a conventional.
Oh, you're getting a new loan.
Yes, so I can't do it that way. Oh, gosh. Hey, I got a great deal. Wow.
You would stand here in front of 350 people who know better and tell me you're getting a new loan and guaranteeing the debt. See if you can find a vacant corner back there, guys. For,
well, I hadn't taken the course yet.
All right. Yeah, well, it's not too late.
Oh, really? What do I do?
What's the ARV?
About 140.
What are you paying?
100.
How many dollars worth of repairs?
Somewhere. Well, this is when we were.
How many dollars worth of repairs?
About 10.
Okay.
Yes, I overpaid.
And what's the Mayo?
98 is the.
What's the Mayo? 88. She's paying 100.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's problem one, isn't it? Yeah. And problem two? Personally guaranteeing debt to borrow the money. How much of a deposit do you have up?
1,000.
1,000?
Yes.
All right. Are you looking for our opinion?
Dump it?
Or is it going to matter?
You can give your opinion.
I guess.
No, I'd appreciate it. No, actually, we bought the house next door, and this one came available. So we're moving into the one next door, and we wanted to keep this one as a rental property.
The hole just keeps digging deeper and deeper. Maureen, I am so glad you're here. And just for the record, there's nothing you can say to make this deal a good one.
Okay.
Here's something you ought to know. You cannot make chicken salad out of chicken shit. You got all kinds of problems. Number one, you paid too much.
Okay.
Do you understand that this is a cash deal even though you're borrowing money from the bank? You violated the formula, and I'm telling you that's never going to be good. 2, you're personally guaranteeing the debt. And 3, now you want to keep a long-term keeper with a personally guaranteed debt. That's not the kind of keepers you want.
Okay. So I would want to...
If I sit here and plug this in up here, in fact, you ought to go do it.
Yeah,
you ought to take that $140,000 ARV and figure out all those costs that we just went over before lunch and see if you sold this house right now what you'd be left with. Being realistic with yourself now.
Yeah, it really wasn't much.
No, it's not. So why buy it?
Good point.
I'm going to tell you, it's cheaper to lose your $1,000 because it can cost you many times that to go through this seminar. Now, it's not the worst case. I mean, you could have done worse. You could have paid way more than that. And I'm not saying you'd lose money, but you're certainly not. If you're looking at this as a profit center, and I can't imagine why you'd buy it for any other thing other than to live in, it's not a good deal.
Okay.
Is this through a realtor?
Yes, actually it is.
Okay. Well, that's okay. You know what I'd do? I'd say, listen, this deal, I start adding up the numbers, and they suck. I can't buy this thing unless you can go back and get it down to $90,000.
Okay.
Who's in control right now?
Me.
You're a week away from the closing. The seller's got the money already spent.
There you go.
Go back and get it down to $90,000 or walk.
Thanks, Ron.
And thanks for what? She ain't gonna do it. She's going to go back, and the realtor's going to give her this big, long sob story and build this case for her paying too much for the house, and she's going to cave in and do it. I can just see it. Right, Maureen? Yes, you can. By the way, Maureen, even if you buy this house, and I'm sure you will, even if you buy this house, all you got to do is tell the realtor, I want that to go on the deed. That's how I want to take title. I'm happy to guarantee the note, but that's how I want to take title. And they shouldn't have any problem doing that for you. And guess what? If the bank says, no, we won't do that, what should you tell the bank? They will do that if they know they're going to lose a loan. Besides, they got no reason not to do that. She's guaranteeing the note. That's all that counts.
Hey,
I'm just
Ron,
told, huh?
I got one good thing, I think. I got the...
Now we're trying to redeem ourselves.
No.
Okay?
I got the seller to give me a $20,000. I've got an 80-10-10 from the bank, and the seller is giving me a $20,000 home improvement loan at 5%.
But you're still... Oh, God. And this is a good thing. So now you're guaranteeing a $20,000 debt from an individual who has no rules whatsoever and rules with their heart, which is twice as dangerous as borrowing money from a bank and guaranteeing it personally.
Okay. So, okay.
Now, is there anything else you want to tell me?
No, I think I'll quit while I'm ahead.
Maureen, if you take my advice, you just paid for this boot camp. Yeah. I'm getting there, and she wants to know how come I use the seller's. Here I go in a land trust course, whether I want to. How come I use the seller's name as on the land trust? All right, here's why. Number one, well, in this case, it really doesn't that important because she's paying cash for the house. But let's suppose I was getting the deed to this house and taking over a debt. Anytime you get a deed and take over a debt, can the lender call a loan due? Okay, now, let's say a lender sees this title go from John Fisherman to Fisherman Family Trust. What would the lender assume? That John's putting it in a trust for estate planning purposes, and they cannot call the loan due if John puts his property in a land trust. It's against federal law. So right there, if they ever had any burr up their butt to call a loan due, it would stop right there. But what else does this accomplish? Who brought up this holding problem a while ago? This FHA holding problem. If title goes from John Fisherman into Fisherman Family Trust, they will assume that John has always owned this property. And it didn't change title. And incidentally, when I sell this property, the deed will go from the Fisherman Family Trust to whoever my owner-occupant buyers are. Therefore, no one but me will know that I've only owned this property for 3 months. Sometimes I'm going to ask you guys to do stuff you don't completely understand. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wake up and it's going to hit you. Now I know why he told me to do that. Oh, God, here we go with these questions. Oh. Okay, what?
What happens if he already has a land trust?
What happens if he already has a land trust? The seller?
Yeah.
Well, you have two choices. You can have his trustee deed it to your trustee, or you can just get an assignment of that land trust if you want to. I wouldn't. I'd get his trustee to deed it to your trustee at the very least with a quick claim deed. All right? Next. Yes? I am not going to make John Fisherman one of the trustees, one of the beneficiaries. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as John Fisherman signs that deed, he can crawl off and die. John Fisherman is no longer a part of my life because his name happens to be the same name that's on my trust, has no relevance to ownership. I could have made it the Mickey Mouse Trust if I wanted to. Doesn't mean Mickey gets any of it. Remember, the trustee does not own the trust. The trustee is simply a pawn put in place by the beneficiary. That trustee can have any name you throw at him. It's the beneficiary that has all the power and makes all the decisions. John is not the beneficiary. If the beneficiary and the trustee are the same, you don't have a trust. Yes?
If you're buying properties to keep and rent, do you still put them in a trust?
Absolutely. There is no exception as to when I use a land trust.
So
We're about ready to buy a commercial building for Global Publishing. It's going to go title to a land trust. Period. No exceptions. None. Now, sometimes the lender, if you're going to go refinance it, might make you take it out of the trust. If they do, the next day it's going right back in.
So if I were to buy a property in a land trust, I wouldn't have to personally guarantee that?
How come your mic's not on?
Well, yeah, I'm just not speaking close enough.
All right.
So I wouldn't have to personally guarantee that mortgage?
Okay. God. I should have known that I was going to get into this, shouldn't I? I should have put it into the curriculum. All right. Listen. The trustee is not liable for any actions of the trust unless they commit fraud. The beneficiary is not liable because they have not signed anything saying, I guarantee. In fact, the beneficiary signs nothing except the trust agreement, of which you haven't even created yet and may never create. The deed transfers ownership from John Fisherman into the Fisherman Family Trust. You've got to decide who the beneficial interest is. But at that day, the Fisherman Family Trust owns the property, and you're in total control of that trust. You can go home and fill out that trust agreement anytime you wish and name anybody or anything you want as the beneficiary. But the minute that John Fisherman signs that deed, John Fisherman is out of it forever. He's deeding the property. It doesn't matter who he deeds it to. It's no longer his property. Now, back to the question. Wait a minute. If I create a note back to John Fisherman as part of the purchase price, as long as that note is signed by the trustee as trustee, the trustee is not personally liable for that debt. And of course, the beneficiary won't sign any of those documents because beneficiaries don't sign those documents. So if the beneficiary's name is not the bottom of the note, they can't be held liable for that debt. So what's liable for that debt? The trust. What's in the trust? The one house. The one house is liable for the debt. So if anybody gets sued there, it's the trust. If they take all the assets of the trust, what are they getting? That one house. Let me go back here first.
Why wouldn't you name
all of you waiting for questions? Oh, God. Go ahead.
Why wouldn't you name the trust the John Fisherman Trust?
I just answered that. If you didn't get it, ask your neighbor.
Instead of the Fisherman family?
Next question. Go. Noreen, go.
You said earlier in the conversation that the bank may look at this thing and see that John Fisherman was the original owner and now it's the Fisherman Family Trust.
Yes.
What is the bank looking at? In our country, when they do that, the trustee is actually, the bank does look at it and demands to see the document. Also, the trustee takes over the rates, the property taxes. The property taxes go to him.
Do I look like I know New Zealand law?
Now, I'm asking you if the bank looks at it.
I have no clue. I don't know in your country, hon. I just don't know. You're going to have to go home and find a real estate attorney. And I don't even know if you can use land trusts in New Zealand.
Yeah, we do.
They don't use them up in Canada.
Yeah, we do. The bank wants to see it, though, and would want to see it.
The bank has every right to see your trust agreement, incidentally.
Right.
Which is why I used to teach, get the seller to sign the trust agreement and then get them to sign it to you and all that crap. I have never, ever had a bank ask to see the trust agreement of a property that I took subject to. Now, I've had a lot of title companies ask to see it when I sell the property. So we just whip up one. Say, what do you want to say? And send it to them.
Is there somewhere that we could use John Fisherman's signature on the trust for anything?
Yes, John Fisherman could sign the trust agreement.
Yes.
And then assign it to you. And then if the bank called you, you could show them the old agreement. You don't have to send them the assignment.
Thank you so much.
You guys listen to my courses over there or what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. My question is that when you do a trust, Does the trustee have to be not related to you? Could it be like your wife?
No.
Or
Trust can be anybody but you.
It could be my wife even?
What state are you in?
Florida.
It should be a corporation.
It should what now?
It should be a corporation or an LLC.
It can be an LLC?
Absolutely.
And then I could use my wife as a trustee?
Your trustee should be your corporation. Appoint any officers of that you wish. Your corporation is not you. Your trustee can be the corporation. You can be the beneficiary.
Oh, really? Okay.
Maryland is the same. Georgia isn't. Individual. Texas, individual. Don't ask me for the other 46 states. I don't know them all. Yes, ma'am.
Mine's kind of a follow-up to what you were just asking, talking about with the fisherman trustee, then would you say the beneficiary is ABC LLC?
No, I can't answer that. That beneficiary could be anybody in your entity structuring pile. And God, I'm not going there today.
What I'm asking is would you use the name of the company or the name of, say, one of the officers?
No. You see, that's an individual thing. And this question is going to take a long time to answer. That's an individual thing, see. And I can't do that here. Let me do that at MOS. At MOS, I'll show you how to structure your entities.
Ron, we've already done it that way.
Because that'll have an effect on who you want your beneficiary to be. But in reality, listen to this, guys. It makes no difference what your documents say. As far as the IRS is concerned, it's where the money goes in and the money comes out. That's who owns property.
Okay.
I don't know, but whatever it is, just keep doing it. So don't make me answer that one now. I'm going to take 2 more and I'm done with this subject. Go ahead.
Ron, okay, after we go through all these...
Hey! Who is this guy? Go ahead.
Okay, after we go through all these machinations and we put the deed into trust and
speak up
and the note as well, if the deal blows up and a foreclosure proceeding starts, whose credit is going to get wrecked
Nobody.
here?
See, that's the beauty of it. That's what you got to understand. If I guarantee a note personally, and if foreclosure happens, they're going to sue me personally. This is why I got to keep you guys from doing that kind of crap. If you don't guarantee debt and you don't write big checks, you cannot lose this game, ladies and gentlemen. You do either one of those and you're at risk. Now, let's say I get a deed to a property subject to, and it goes into foreclosure. And a lot of times it will in the short sale business. Okay? They're going to foreclose on whatever's on public record. What's on public record? The trustee is trustee. That doesn't even affect the trustee's credit. A trustee's credit cannot be harmed by anything they choose to be trustee on. So they're foreclosing on the trust. Your name will never come up in the foreclosure, thank you, ever, because it's not on public record.
So if they're going to sue you on the note that you guaranteed...
If you guarantee the note, you're going to get sued, you betcha.
But is that going to be on public record before they get a judgment?
Yes.
Yes.
If anytime you guarantee a personal note, it's going on public record if it's have to do with real estate.
Okay.
And so they'll sue the trustee and you if you guarantee the debt. Sorry, don't guarantee debt. Yes, it's the last land trust question today. Go ahead.
Just to clarify a couple of things, Ron, you mentioned that if you're in Florida, the company can be, the trustee can be a company
yes.
or a corporation. Is that a company that you own? And
yes.
And you also own a company that's a beneficiary?
No.
So
you don't have to have a company as the beneficiary.
No, but I guess what I'm getting to is you are both the beneficiary of the trust and you own the company that's a trustee. Is that okay?
I own oh, yes, I can. I can own a corporation that's trustee and own a different corporation that's beneficiary.
Okay.
That's 2 different entities now.
All right.
I said the same entity cannot be beneficiary and trustee.
Okay. And the second one is on the example you had her use her maiden name.
Yes. Why'd I do that?
Well, to disguise...
so that her name is not on public records.
The problem I see is that if she goes to deed the property to somebody else, she has to prove to a
All
notary...
she has to do is prove she's who she is.
Right.
Believe me, she won't have any problem with that.
So she'll need to have an ID as well.
That's right. Correct. Okay, remind me never to bring up land trusts again. We'll get into them more deeply in MOS, but I got to get on this junker stuff here. We're not going to get through with that today. All right. Presenting offers is really not complicated. How do you present offers to individuals? If you get orally accepted, the next thing to do is sit down and write a 2-minute contract. What if you make a mistake? Guido, they come get your kids, hold them hostage. If you make a mistake, nothing happens. If the title company tells you to fix it before closing, you just get them to sign off and fix it. If you look at the contract in your book, and I'm going to let Bo get into contracts. In fact, Bo do it tonight, didn't he? Yeah, do it tonight. It's a very simple contract in here. And by the way, the back is the wrong contract. Or no, it's not the wrong one. It's incomplete. So turn to page 226 and fill in the 4 places that are blank there. Look way up the top, and it's 30 days after date of acceptance. That's the time that you usually put in a contract when you get ready to buy it. Is that what you do, Robin? Shorter when you're buying? Okay. If you know where the money's coming from and you're prepared to close, why take longer than you need? She's right. If I've got a money available, and all of you got money available, you just don't know it yet, through private lenders. If I know I can get the money in 15 days, why not close in 15 days? Give the seller more reason to accept it. Especially important with REOs and bank-owned properties. But usually you'll put 30 days after date of acceptance. If you're buying from an individual and you already got the deal orally accepted, there's no reason to putting yourself into a 15-day frame. Use 30. Doesn't mean you can't close in 15, just means you have 30. And if you're wholesaling it, you want longer, not shorter, right?
Right.
So you put 30. Skip down to paragraph 12 or 13, and the occupancy, you just checks the seller represents. There's nobody there. Check the first little parentheses thing there, and then go down to 18 or 16. I'm sorry, and I always check the zoning, and it's either single family, 2 family, 3 family, 4 family, and it's very important that you check the zoning, especially if you're buying single family houses. Actually, it's not important when you're dealing with individuals, because if you find out it's zoned commercial and you're trying to buy single, worst case, you just don't buy the house. And should you check the zoning especially on multifamily properties?
Absolutely.
Okay, there's a seminar you don't need to take. If you're buying a duplex, it ain't a duplex unless the city says it's a duplex. Don't care how many meters it's got, don't care how many bedrooms it's got. I don't care how much it looks like a duplex. If it's got 2 doors, 2 mailboxes, it ain't a duplex unless it's zoned duplex.
Hey, Ron, some of the cities now around the United States are changing it. If the house is empty more than 12 months, it loses its multifamily status. My city just changed it. If the house is empty longer than 12 months, it loses its multifamily status. So we've got a lot of big triplexes that are set up as triplexes that are one-family homes.
In most areas, if the house is condemned and the lot's not wide enough and it was a triplex and they condemn it, it automatically goes down to single family and it'll never go back to triplex. All they're doing is trying to lower the density of occupation in neighborhoods. So it's not near as important as single family as it is in multi. If you're buying a multi, you better make sure it's on multi. You just check it there. It gives you time. You don't have to know the day you make the offer. Check that it's a 4-unit or whatever. I bought a 4-unit one time. Bought it condemned. Spent a fortune rehabbing it. Put 4 kitchens in it and 4 beautiful bathrooms. Had 4 electric meters on it. And then I had the city come out and inspect it. And they said, this is a lovely single-family home. I said, what have you been smoking, man? This is a 4-plex. He said, take out 3 kitchens. So I had a huge single-family house that I sold to a huge family. I had a 1632 unit one time. I owned it back in the mid-'80s. In fact, it's the first property that I ever made more than $50,000 on. I bought it cheap. I fixed it, all with borrowed money. And then I sold it, made $50,000 on it. And 5 years later, it was back on the market. Vacant, totally vacant, vandalized, 32 units, owned by Fannie Mae. I put an offer in on it of $32,000, and they accepted it. Man, my heart went. I sold this property for $200,000 5 years earlier. And in fact, that was my first fire. God, I love fire. When the apartment's caught on fire, they paid me $32,000. I fixed it for $12,000. God bless fires. Anyway, that's another subject. Then I went and checked the zoning. The 32 unit was now a single family house. 2 concrete block buildings been downzoned because of the narrow lot to a single family house. There went that deal. And so obviously they've been bulldozed since then. On the other hand, There's another side to that sword. If you buy a single-family house and it's zoned commercial, you've got just as big of problems. You will not get a single-family house financed if it's zoned commercial. Buying a single-family house that's zoned commercial is a bad thing, not a good thing. It kills your financing and it kills your exit strategy. The only way you can sell it is a commercial property with commercial property financing. And most of the time, it will not sell for more. So if you've got a single-family house zoned commercial, don't close on it. Now, if you want to just go get the deed on it, fine. You can always do what? Tear up the deed. Say, hey, man, you didn't tell me this place was zoned commercial. Nothing I can do with it. It's your baby. But if you're going to go get a loan on a property, better make sure you know what you're getting. How do you think I know this? I got one like that right now. It's a single-family house on 4 lots, zoned commercial. Yes?
In Florida, where you and I both live, they have a zoning, at least in my county, that says commercial general.
Yes.
Which means you can build either housing, private family housing, or a commercial property on that property. What about that zoning?
I would bet you that CG zoning does not allow you to build single families. Really? It might. I bet you. I got CG zoning.
Do you?
Can't build single families on it. There's another zoning that you can. That's both commercial and residential, and you might get away with that one. What you ought to do is check with your lender, broker, or banker, and see if that's going to stop you from getting a loan for your end user as a residence.
You wouldn't check with the zoning department?
Zoning department is not going to tell you what the banks will finance.
Okay.
Okay. Move on down to the bottom there. All you need to add there now, obviously the signatures, but right there below the signature, you got to add the section where you gave the seller $10. So put $10 in there and check. If I were you, I'd be giving people deposits by check, ladies and gentlemen, so you can prove it. Now this is proof if they sign this, but if you got a check, that's even better. Everybody understand that? You check where it says seller, because the seller's acknowledging you've given them the $10 deposit. And just for the record, if you don't give them that $10 deposit, you don't have a contract. If the contract says you did. So that's all the seminar I'm going to give you on this contract. If you want more, you can see Bo, because believe me, if you take a look at the front of that, you'll see that's a pathetically simple contract to fill out. And Bo's made it easy for you. He just came out with a set of software that literally guides you through every single blank and tells you what to put in it. See. Put in this, don't know what to put in here, punch button, it tells me. I'll let him tell you about that this afternoon. All right. So presenting the offer, piece of cake when you're doing with individuals, but what about with FSBO? What about with realtors? Actually, it's even easier. Here's what you do. Mr. or Mrs. Realtor, here's what I'll pay. Here's what I'll pay in closing costs. Write it up. You're done. Sign it, they submit it, or they submit a letter of intent, get an agreement, then write it up. Let them choose. You will not tell the realtors how to submit offers. You will only tell them what you'll pay. They know what to do. They'll do it. You'll sit back and wait. You'll be patient. And when it gets accepted, you'll get a copy, and then you can kick into gear. You will not come face to face with the seller. You will not go behind the realtor's back and try to approach the seller. You will make the offer to the realtor. The realtor will make the offer, get it signed, get it back to you, and then you start your process of what we're about to get into of selling it. Yes? Now with a realtor. Look at page 223. Institutional sellers, individual sellers. When I say institutional sellers, they're always listed with realtors. Price is going to be higher. Terms, usually none, and if they are, you shouldn't accept them. Any terms with an institution involve personal liability in single-family houses. Earnest money, minimum $500. I told you they'd want more. Contingencies, none. You do not need contingencies in your contracts. What contingencies you need are already in there. However, if I'm putting up a deposit with a realtor, $1,000 or so, if I need a contingency, I have no problem putting it in there then. If it has to be contingent upon me getting an appraisal, stick it in there. If it doesn't work, get my deposit back. But when I'm dealing with an individual, folks, and they got $10 of my money, what contingencies do you need to get your $10 back? You don't even need to worry about contingencies. If any reason you want to get out of this contract, for any reason, if the moon isn't aligned with the stars correctly on closing day, cancel the contract, forfeit your $10, it's over. We clear? Don't need contingencies. That's crap. That's seminar crap they teach you in the TV courses because it sells seminars. I had a guy submit me an offer one time. It had 4 pages of contingencies. Of course, I didn't even consider it, but it was a joke. I mean, I got a big laugh out of it. I said to him, I said, man, any one of these would have done the job. Why do you need all of them? And I told him, I said, listen, if this is how you're buying properties, you got a tough business ahead of you. Because any moron that would accept all these contingencies really has to be an idiot. And he said, well, will it be okay with you? I said, no. Closing costs, the realtor will probably try to divide them up because that's normal. When you're dealing with an individual, you can decide who pays closing. I'll tell you one thing. Any seller that's getting all cash from me pays all or most of the closing costs. When I'm getting a deed, I pay the closing costs. Assignability with a realtor ain't likely. They usually have non-assignable paragraphs. Do yours? Non-assignable paragraphs in your contract with realtors?
No, actually.
No? Okay, so you can assign them. Most of them have it in there. Now, that won't bother me on a simultaneous closing because I might take title today and sell it 5 minutes later. That's not an assignment. But if I want to assign the contract and their purchase and sale agreement says I can't, then I got a problem. So if I were you guys, I'd still stick to the FSBOs, and a lot of that realtor crap is going to go away and make your life a lot easier. All right. Let's move on over to step 9 on page 227. We have a contract. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. What's the next step? Check the title. If it's a realtor contract or if it's an individual contract, you call a title company, or in some states an attorney like New York and New Jersey or North Carolina, where you have to close with an attorney, and you tell them to order a title search. When you order a title search, you must get a file number so you can refer back to it later. You may have to go ask around and find from other investors who you think you ought to order title through. You want a investor-friendly title company, or in California, escrow company, or in some states, an attorney. It very well may be that once you get this contract accepted, it's time to get out there and get that part of your dream team in place. Or for some of you, that's already in place. Or for others, you might be thinking about that before you get one accepted. However, you do not need to build your dream team before you start making offers. It will do you no good to have a title company or an attorney if you never make an offer. You won't need them. When you leave here, you are to start making offers the way you're taught. You're to do it immediately. You can worry about all that little stuff later, and you will be forced to fill in the gaps as you go anyway. When you order the title search, you make sure you have a clear understanding of A, what it's going to cost, and B, how long it's going to take, and C, if you intend to assign your contract, that the title company or attorney has no problem with that, or if you intend to do a simultaneous closing, they have no problem with that. Some of them will have a problem with simultaneous closings. I can't think of any of them who would have a problem with a contract. And incidentally, if the title company tells you they can't do simultaneous closings, or they can't do an assignment, what do? You do not let them run your life. You do not let them lead you around by the nose. You do not tell them what you can or can't do. You go somewhere else and get rid of them. Whack them. Put them down like a dead dog. Call somebody else. If you get a hold of a real estate attorney and he tells you this stuff won't work and you can't do that here and we don't do it like that here, don't try to change his mind. Get out of his office. And find somebody who says, sure, we can do that. We do it all the time. That's a totally different association, and that's the only people you want to work with. When you run across a realtor who wants to make life tough, whack them. Title companies who want to make life tough, whack them. Appraisers who want to jerk you around, whack them. Contractors, whack them all. Contractor expert over here, I'll let you handle that one. All of these people can make life easier, or they can make life miserable. It's up to you to get them out of your face if they become a problem, and only work with those who want to work with you. Title company, right there is where you got to develop your relationship. I've been working with the same title company now for 21 years. And they haven't always done the way I would like. And sometimes they've been a pain in the neck. But most of the time, they have saved me deals. They have done a lot of stuff. They've been over backwards to do stuff they shouldn't do. They make it a point not to try to talk people out of deals, but do everything they can to talk them into them. They know where their bread and butter's coming from without going over the edge and violating the law and keeping secrets and not disclosing. They know where their business comes from. And that relationship has made both parties a lot of money. I've probably sent 3,000-4,000 deals through my title company when you think about buy, sell, and borrow from private lenders. I'm a mortgage broker. I loan money. God, that's a lot of closings, guys. That title company and I work with mental telepathy. We have everything in writing, but we know I don't have to train them every time. And in fact, we get together sometimes just to reminisce about old times and all the seminars we've gone through together in the last 21 years. And I suggest you find one, and you will not find that in an office where there's 20 people running around. My title company is a father, his daughter, and 3 or 4 employees. And remember, a title company is nothing more than an agent for some underwriter. I don't care who the underwriter is. I care who the people who are in the office taking care of my affairs are. And you may not be lucky enough to find a title company like that on your first try. I can assure you, Robin's got somebody that she works closely with to do her closings. In fact, I'll let you comment on that. I'll bet you it wasn't your first shot, was it?
No, and we closed with attorneys in Connecticut. It took 3 before I got the right one.
Okay. Jack, would you turn her microphone up a little bit, please? By asking other investors who they use. That's how I found mine. Just ask them. If you've got a real estate association, ask 4 or 5 people. I'll bet you get 1 or 2 of the same answers. That's where you ought to go. And that's the same place you find attorneys and CPAs and contractors you may not be able to find like that because they're very reluctant to give out that name. When you get a good contractor, you're kind of reluctant to give it up. You know, that's like giving somebody a date with your wife or something, you know. Did I just say that?
It's okay. That isn't here.
Give me some water. I better wash out my mouth here.